Hey, how you doing? So we just started the recording. My name's Chris Howland. I am the admin and founder of LA Sound Mixers, which is a group dedicated to the mentorship and education of film sound professionals. And this is our monthly chat. And this month, we usually cover specific topics, but this month it's going to kind of be what we call an all skate, where everybody can just jump in with any topics they like. And we're also going to cover, in addition, we're going to cover our trip that we took with K-Tek and the Boomright Masterclass with Ken Strain. And then I moderated a panel discussion. It was kind of two events in one event that was kind of extra long, but extra cool. And it was the second time we've done a trip like that. So we're going to kind of, there's people that have been invited today that were part of that. And that we traveled with. They were part of the panels, and they were part of us, just hopefully providing some mentorship and educational opportunities for people in Europe, but also there was an equal amount of educational opportunities for us as well, because we learned so much whenever we talk to colleagues around the world, and we're really lucky and fortunate that K-Tek allows us to do that and steps in and makes that possible. So some people from everybody who could make it from the trip is here. And we're just going to go through the trip. And then and we also, Doc is here. He's got some cool gear news to share with us. And then anytime, I mean, this is an open chat. Anybody's allowed to jump in and ask questions or clarifications. If there's a new subject you want to bring up, go ahead and do it. And we'll chat it around and see where it goes. We generally want it to end around noon. And so we started a little late today because I sent the wrong link out to a few people. So we had to do some little last minute cleanup. So it's now 10:20 in the morning. And we'll here in LA and we'll go to noon. If we go over a little bit, then that's great too. Normally we have Lampadinha and Adam Young helping with co-hosting duties, but they are both working today, which is the craziest thing. You would think in a strike, everybody would be available in LA, but nope, those two are working, which is really great. But I'm happy to have Thera, Fanny stepping in to help co-host, and also Jana Lopez. Thank you so much for being here. And she's really the glue that holds this thing together in many ways. So thank you, Jana. But there's a rule established by Thera that if you talk while you're muted, you owe $1 in the mute jar. So be mindful of that, because we will
already buy $3 sale. Let's see how far we're getting.
And there will be a list of shame made and published. So anyway, so yeah, let's we'll jump right in. We did a tour of Europe, and we did 3 cities: Berlin, Milan, and Rome. And K-Tek sent us out there, and it was me moderating a panel discussion and Ken Strain teaching his boom operators masterclass. We'll start with the broad strokes of how the trip went for the people that were there. I know we saw Martin in Milan. And and then even George Flores made it to Milan to see us, which is great because he's one of our local heroes here in LA. So it was really cool to see him over there. But I'll go with Ken first. Ken, you've taught this class all over the world. I know this must be the 10th, 11th, 12th city.
I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean it's been a lot of different places now.
So
this was great. It was great. Every single venue was packed, and people came from all over Europe to each venue, which was like bananas. I was like, for me, I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah, there was a few people that were in Berlin that also turned up in Milan, and I remember looking at the
we had people came twice.
Yeah,
like one class after the other. I was like, what did you miss something?
Take 2.
Yeah. Oh, they just want to ask more questions. That's kind of part of it is some of these people have actually bought my class on Video Mantis.
Yep.
and watched it, and they're like, yeah, we know, but we just want to come in person and then we can ask questions. And every class is a little different, and it's true, every class is a little different, So more stuff gets added, some things get taken away,
Yeah. So do people, so after every class, everybody came up and engaged you afterwards, and what kind of questions did they have? What were the clarifications they were asking for?
So they don't all come up to me. We have a panel of people, and we have a couple of rock stars, let's just say. So I'm just part of a smorgasbord. And so a couple things that come up regularly is people say to me, I am doing the right thing. I'm doing it right. Like, because they don't seem to have reference points. They don't have there's not like a common sort of mentorship, or I don't know what, but I do teach a different style, and there are people who have experimented with that on their own, and then they see me talk about it and they're like, oh, that makes me feel so good. I thought maybe I was doing something wrong because people are telling me I'm doing it wrong. And I'm like, no, you're doing it right. And then the other thing was people tripping on my little soap technique for cutting squeaks. Every single class, it was like as if I'd dropped a nugget of gold at their feet. All I said was, hey, I carry this bar of soap in case you have squeaky shoes and you need to sort of get past that without putting on booties and slip sliding around. It's such a simple little trick, and yet blew so many minds. I was like, well, that's staying in the class.
Yeah, I'd never heard that until we did your first class in 2017. And
a lot of people don't. And I learned it from an extra.
Oh, I love it. Because I guess they had it done to them because,
another sound team on another show was making all the background. They had squeaky floors. And I was on a show where over the weekend, they had polished all the floors. We show up on Monday for a huge Steadicam walk and talk in this bullpen. And it was so bad that the director was like, this isn't going to work. Like, it was a full blown walk and talk. He goes, this isn't working at all. What can we do? And they tried putting on booties, but then it was a Steadicam and they were slip sliding everywhere. And it's like, well, that's not going to work. And then this background person tapped on my shoulder and said, if you guys have soap, we had this problem on the last show. They made us they put soap on a tile and we all just sort of rubbed our feet in the tile. And I said, well, I'm all out of ideas. I'll give this a try. We hunted down for a bar of soap and we got the scene and we fixed it. And I was like, thank you, previous sound crew that influenced this background person who came up to me to tell me this. So, yeah. And now I just keep a bar of soap in my boom stand. And so when I'm showing all the stuff I carry with me in my boom stand to the class, that's like the huge light bulb moment right there. They're like, oh, wow. Thank you.
And then you get to smell Ivory Fresh or Irish Spring.
Yeah, I'm like, just pick a smell you like.
That's cool. Is there any particular types of soap to stay away from, or just any bar of soap?
Yeah, any soap you don't like the smell of. I don't know. I mean, some might be very flaky. So, it's something that's, I heard that there's a certain kind of wax or something that one of my grip friends uses for dollies. If I think of it, I'll let you guys know. That might be better. I'm going to experiment with that. But just regular bar, I use Irish Spring. That's what I have in my bag.
Nice.
It works, and everyone smells nice afterward.
Nice. It's green. Maybe a Halter Technical could buy that.
Yeah. Maybe there could be like a special sound soap, that somebody can sell. It's like, it smells great and works great.
And it's already green, so we're halfway home here. We just
exactly. Yeah, just put your brand on it, and make it so that as you rub it down, your brand just stays in the front the whole time.
Yeah, it's like slapping a logo on non-lubricated microphone sheaths.
Oh yes, I've heard of those.
Yeah.
Good Lord. I mean, how many of us have been in a city where we have to find those at the last minute? Oof. Can I ask you, as Jeff Wexler here, I haven't had the pleasure of attending any of your boom classes, and I didn't realize you had it on Video Mantis. I'd like to look at it.
Yeah. You want to see that one? Yeah, I'll tell Thomas to give you a code.
Okay.
Check it out.
I'd love to know the balance that you, no pun intended, but the balance that you have between discussing technique and little tips and tricks like the soap and stuff like that, and talking about sound and listening and what you're hearing and all, because I know that almost 20 years ago or so, Don Coufal through the union did some teaching, a boom class, and
I went.
Oh, you did, really? Oh, good.
I went to that class.
Wow,
that's what inspired me to start teaching.
That's so nice, Ken, to hear that. Oh, geez.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah, cool. That literally, when I took Don's class, I was like, you know what? I want to do this.
Oh, boy. And the only criticism that I'd heard often or several times about his class is that he spent too much time talking about listening and creativity and capturing a performance and did not spend enough time, because there were a lot of people in the class that really just wanted to know, how do I hold this fucking fishpole, and how do I, what do I have to do to beef up my arms, and what do I have to do to stop having the operators yell at me and and stuff like that. But Ken, that was just great to hear that that Don inspired you. And I'll say one more thing, that when you talk about it being an eye opener, when you're talking to these classes, they realize the scope of responsibility of the boom operator. I hope is something that you focus on, because I know that one time I was in re-recording, visiting a re-recording mixer who had mixed a number of movies that we had done. And he said, he had a question. He says, one of these, we never have any camera noise problem. This is back when with film cameras, there were times when, you'd have too much noise from the camera. Right. And he said, why is it? And I said, well, that's Don. And he said, oh, is that sort of digital onboard? I said, no, it's Don Coufal, boom operator.
Right.
And this re-recording mixer who had mixed hundreds of movies looked at me like, what does the boom operator have to do with camera noise, And I said, it's just one of the myriad of things that a good boom operator really is concerned about. It's not just recording the voices so we hear them talking. It's dealing with all the other things that you don't want to hear. And, so it's a good thing that you're doing, Ken. And I'll tell you,
thank you.
It just slays me that you actually went to Don's class.
Did. Oh, it was in Van Nuys it was like the Van Nuys airport or something. It was like something like that. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay. I'll be quiet. Thank you so much.
No, but you had a question. So I'm going to answer your question.
Okay.
About ratio of technique to listening to all that stuff. And I would say it's pretty even. The way I break it up is the first third is the first third of the class is equipment, the gear that I use and how I use it, how important it is to what I do. Yeah. And then I roll into physically how I boom to make my life much easier. And to eliminate the strain and stress of booming so that I can focus on my technique of placing the microphone. Then I get into a little bit about talking about microphones and how to use them. And then I do a live demo using two actors who are they don't have to be real actors. I give them a super short script that we can run through really fast. And then I just direct them on stage, and then everyone's listening on a listening device using their headphones. And I start demonstrating various problems and techniques and how we deal with them and how one can deal with them. And they can listen to see this versus that. Yeah. And then once I go through that, then I start talking about working on set and how to interface with the crew,
working with the rest of the crew. Yeah, so important.
Working with the crew, working with your sound mixer. Sort of the nuts and bolts of being on set. And
working with the sound mixer is a big deal because as you know, we're a lot of us are really difficult.
Really? No, stop. So. But the thing is, it also depends on how much time I have, because every venue has a time constraint and some are longer than others. So like sometimes I got to squeeze a lot into a little and things get dropped. So I have to prioritize. Good. And so I always prioritize the technique that takes the pressure off of the body, because I think once you can once you can eliminate that stress, that strain on the body, then your mind is free to focus on
And start
becoming actually
fine-tuning.
better boom operator
Oh, yeah.
instead of worrying about how you're going to survive a 25-minute take, you
Yeah.
know? So that's kind of like, I start there, I get that on the table, and then we take it from there.
Great. Thank you, Ken.
Very cool. And I want to pivot over real quick. I want to come back to Ken, but I know Tino has to go, and I wanted to ask Tino. Well, first of all, I wanted to thank him for him and K-Tek and Brenda for making this Europe trip possible. And I know we talked about this during the preamble leading up to when the recording started, but can we get into a little bit again what's the genesis behind K-Tek being willing to do this? Because I always come up with these grandiose ideas, and ideas are one thing, but it takes people with resources and that are sharing your vision to help make it happen. And I'm just really thankful to Tino and K-Tek for jumping in to support us in that way. And so Tino, yeah, tell us what the genesis of this idea was for you guys and how it worked out for you.
So first of all, hi everybody. Yeah, it was fairly simple. I mean, you came to us with Ken and said, "Can we help sponsoring the first class in LA?" And that was a little trigger for the US market. But later we said, why not carrying it to other parts of the world? So we started, of course, with Europe. We think that's the strongest market where we can, help out connecting people and what this whole class is all about. It's not just teaching. We don't want to go to other countries and tell them how to do it and what to do. That is like invading a country, which we did a stupid way to do. But the exchange of information is obviously beneficial to everyone involved, to us as a manufacturer, to you guys as users from the US, and then for the Europeans as exchanging information with the US, how that works, how everybody helps each other and creates groups and support groups. We realized obviously that Europe is far behind us in the way of organizing themselves, which everybody seems to be a single fighter for themselves, rather than grouping up and supporting and helping each other. Now, yes, of course, I have to say, as a company, we benefit from that, going around with you guys, sharing that information and exposing our brand that way. But on the other hand, it is helpful for the participants. It is helpful for you guys. It's helpful for us. I think it's a win-win situation for everyone if we continue doing that. We're having fun every single time we're doing that. And yes, it does cost money, but we decided to rather invest into these kind of events than any big exhibitions, because the exhibitions are very expensive. And I keep mentioning that to other people, that it's I'd like to get directly to the people at the the end users. When you go to an exhibition, the biggest portion of people showing up at the booth is usually our dealers, which we know anyway. So we send them the information, what they need via email, via even the products, the new products and stuff like that. But the events we're doing, I mean, every single time we're finishing those, I feel so good about it. Not just for the turnaround, because it's the exposure we're getting. It's so much bigger than any NRB show or IBC or whatever is out there. So we decided no more exhibition. Maybe, Cine Gear was an option, but even that, I say, I'd rather take that money and go somewhere else and do it there with Ken and you and at the LA Sound Mixer. It's just such a great thing to do.
Yeah, and I remember just before COVID started, it was January, I think. I was in London for a few days, and I remember you and I connected, and I got to go with you to where did we go? We went to Everything Audio, and I think in London, and then we went to the one that's on the lot, Elstree.
Yeah, that is Everything Audio.
That is
and
Everything.
Then we went to Pink Noise.
Pink Noise, yeah. And I remember it was so neat just driving with you, just you representing K-Tek and me just kind of tagging along, and you had a great connection with your dealers. So yeah, I understand that you have driven so many kilometers across Europe, to stay connected with all these people, that I can see why maybe maybe you don't need to have the booth to connect with them again. You know, it's
my accent gives it away. I am from Europe, so obviously, when I started with K-Tek, I had a little Fiat 500, the newer model, but it was a little Fiat, and I filled it up with K-Tek gear, and I drove all across the European countries, and I went to visit the dealers there, and I made connections. So I created the K-Tek brand basically new in Europe. It's not like it wasn't known, but it was a whole different connection all of a sudden. So we placed the mark in Europe, and ever since we have that, I'm not there anymore. I'm here now, officially in the US, but keeping the connection to our European dealers in that way we're doing right now, they're helping us. For example, on this trip, it was Nordic Pro Group in Germany. It was Soundfish in Italy, who supported us. It was back then in London, it was Pink Noise, right? So these connections help us with everything we do with our end users and the people in the field. I love it. It's such a good, nice family. And I may say that again, you know, I used to work in the camera side. I don't want to say it publicly, but I give that secret away. And I don't want to say they're bad people. That's not. I mean, everyone has a little, but the community in general, if you look at it, the sound community is so much more down to earth. And I love how the people work together, how they do not push away each other. You know, they don't see each other as a competition as much. Anyway, in the US, Europe is still a little different, and that needs to be pushed. I think we need to find a way to have them unify themselves a little bit too.
Well, that's something that we, as you know, as in LA Sound Mixers, you know, we were able to organize the local LA community, and because there's a lot of new people coming into the craft, especially here, and so we kind of found that if there's a way you can give them an opportunity to connect with the other people around them, they can kind of learn what their value is. They can learn how to negotiate, and they, you know, we with all of us looking out for each other, that really does, you know, an organized local community really does help protect the sustainability of the craft for everybody. And so, but you can't do that just being on your own. You have to have colleagues, you have to have an inner circle, and then you have to have your connections in the broader community sense. So it really worked out over the last 10 years here in LA. And so that's been part of our mission, is to just try and help communities around the world organize themselves. I'm not interested in adminning a group in Berlin or Milan or any of these other cities. I don't live there. No, but I want that, you know, the one of the best moments I had of the whole tour was in Berlin when the room started filling up, and I think we had about 60 people there, and that was capacity for the room, and it was a really nice vibe. And I had somebody come up and introduce themselves, and they said, one of their first comments was, you know, I'm seeing all these name tags, and I know all these people from the Berlin film community, but I've never seen them in one room before. And I was like, that is cool. That's exactly what, you know, and I loved seeing that. I loved hearing that. And that meant that we hit our mark of what we wanted to do there. And I encouraged him to keep doing that. You know,
Chris, you really deserve credit for being the person that has moved a lot of us forward in terms of the sociability and helping to allow our community to become what it is. I just want to say that because it's you've been very, very instrumental in all of that, and it's because, you know, you have a personal commitment to the beauty of that sort of connection amongst all of us. So.
Yeah, it was
also Tino, I didn't realize that when you say the name K-Tek, to me it's like ubiquitous around the United States. It's like saying pass me a Kleenex, and then somebody says I don't know what that is. I didn't realize in Europe that it is a brand that is unknown.
Well, it is not unknown. It was known even before I came on board, but I refreshed the brand in Europe quite well, because I mean, let's face it, it was my backyard, and I drove around. I knew the places. I basically knew all the dealers already in a way. So I figured I'd drive by, I showed them K-Tek, and I made them deals. You know, let's get started, let's get moving, you know, introductory deals. It's the only way to get business going in Europe if you show your face. This industry is different than, for example, Amazon or wherever you buy stuff. It's not the same thing. People need the personal connection. And I'm obviously, I like to go around and meet people and hang out with people and talk about stuff. An exhibition, again, let me bring this up one more time while we're doing this, is an exhibition. I have a dealer coming to me, talking to me for 5 minutes because he has already 5 other appointments lined up. He said, show me quickly what you have, and then send me an email, right, with the price list. This is no connection. This is just trying to, do the quick money. It's the McDonald's of all good foods, right? So, but if you go to the place where the dealer is and you see what they have, what they're dealing with, you sit down with them, have a meal, you create a connection, that person will always come back to you and order stuff from you. And it helps for us, of course, and it helps also the people in their environment to have another option. Now, I'm not saying we're going there and all of a sudden everybody buys just K-Tek. It's not going to work. I mean, let's face it, it's a preference, right? You can buy a Mercedes, you can buy a Porsche or a Cadillac. Everything gets you from A to B, but it's the way how you get there. If you feel comfortable, if you're doing the job good with it.
If I might ask, what is the brand names that are there in Europe?
Well, you got for once you got the ambient, and when we talk boom poles, right? You got ambient and you got VDB, and then there's Panamic in England. Those are the 3 bigger ones over there. Obviously, none of them are really happy that we're trying to hunt in their territory, but it's an open market. Luckily, everywhere it's the same. They're coming over here to the US as well and trying to sell here. Competition is healthy and it's good. So I'm not fearing it. I'm just actually I'm welcoming it.
Yeah, that was one of the things in our 2019 trip. I remember you picked us up from the Munich airport, and our first event there was in Munich. And once we got the entire band together, all the flights landed and we all got everything in the car. Our first stop you took us to was to Ambient in Munich.
Our competitor.
Ambient makes boom poles. They make all kinds of stuff. But he took us straight over there. And I just thought, wow, that is really cool because Ambient does so many great things. And I remember Klaus was there, rest in peace. And he was really just nice to hang out with. The whole crew there. It was neat to see their operation and see where they're doing all the R&D for this stuff. But it dawned on me, this is they have competing product lines, but didn't stop Tino from just driving us right over there and meeting everybody. And I really love that. That to me, it's like, this is a lesson that I learned, over the years. And it was just kind of reiterated to me last week, oddly enough, that what you perceive as competition really is, if you really look at it and peel back the layers, is a source of inspiration. Because if you have people around you that are doing what you do and they're keeping a certain pace, then you watching them might feel that they're competition, but you know what? They're pacing you. Use that to set your own goals. This might be a weird kind of, anecdote to share about it. But when I was learning how to play drums in junior high and then in high school, there was like 1 or 2 other kids in my music class that were also playing drums, and they were good. And I just remember looking at them in my little 8th, 7th, 8th grade brain thinking, that's my competition. I want to beat them. And so we spent our whole high school, and I have no idea if they thought the same way or not. I just knew I was watching them, and they got to study with the really top instructors there in the town. I didn't have any lessons at all. I couldn't afford it. I could barely afford a drum set. I was just cobbling together stuff to play, but I would watch them play, and that pushed me. And in my brain, I felt like it was competitive. I wanted to be better. But once I graduated high school and moved to another city, they weren't around anymore. Their absence in my life was huge, because it wasn't until then that I realized I was pacing. I was using them to pace myself. If they can do this, then I should be able to do this too. Yeah. And when that is gone, now I had no frame of reference. And so I ended up years later, we reconnected on Facebook, and I sent him a note saying, you know what, I did not properly appreciate you in my life because I thought I was competing against you, but no, you were inspiring me the whole time, and I didn't know it. I didn't know it until I left. And so I feel like with production sound people, that is, the people around you, draw inspiration from them. Occasionally our resumes are going to end up on the same desk, and that's fine. But when you see other people developing their careers, you find the similarities. Find where you can help each other, because that really is the inspiration. Without that, you're not going to have a compass to find your directions. So that's my story about that.
Let me add one more thing to this part here because of the competition talk and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So while we were doing all these trips, thanks to you, Chris, and Ken and K-Tek, obviously, we had we getting attention. Right. So it's not just the end users, there's other companies as well. So while we were doing this last trip, for example, we went past Sennheiser. We went, see their facility, their factory, which was great for everyone for us to see. Even for myself, I've been to plenty of factories in Europe, different kind of brand, obviously camera, lenses and stuff like that. But this one in particular was very interesting because the way they work, the security they have and all that stuff, that was really amazing. But what my point is, we created the interest of other companies to join us. So I'm almost 100% convinced when we go the next trip, we're going to have Sennheiser with us on board, for example. And I'm sure we can get some other people as well. And that strengthens the whole the event, right? It makes it really, really good for everyone involved.
I see Doc waving his hand there.
Who is
Doc,
waving?
I see Doc waving his hand there. Yes.
I like Europe.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Well, please send your application.
And how about Spain?
I think it would be great to incorporate some other partners just to help share the burden of the trip, because it can be a little pricey, but yeah. So I feel like if there's 2 or 3 sponsors sharing the burden, then it'll be very manageable for a lot of people. And
Doc,
we
I heard you. I'll remember that. Next time we go, we'll talk.
No, he's obligated now.
No,
he just raised his hand. It's done.
That was a commitment right there.
Volunteering to pay for the Europe trip?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Was Doc volunteering to pay for the Europe trip?
Yeah.
That's
Really.
Yep, that's what you basically said.
For everybody on this Zoom right now, let's go.
I love the idea.
Anyway, it's the Oprah
guys,
meme. You get a trip. So.
It's great chatting with you guys, but I think I have to go. I have an appointment lined up, and I'm a little late already as is. But I can always have a good excuse. I stayed with you guys.
I appreciate it.
You got
Thank
bigger
you, Tino.
bigger names to talk to, right?
Later, Tino.
You guys have a good one, okay?
You
Take
too.
care.
Thanks, buddy.
Take care.
Cool.
Hey, Jeff, what kind of mic are you using? You sound amazing.
I know, right?
It's from a company, I think MXL or something. It's a little podium mic, a USB mic, and it sounds good. And I've gone the other route. I had a Focusrite interface and tried, using other, more professional microphones, but I kind of like this one. So.
Very cool. So getting back to Ken. Sorry, I know Tino had to get out of here, so I wanted to get over to him. But yeah. So it's as far as some of the questions and the interactions you got from some of the attendees. Did you have any just mind bending questions from people?
Never. Nobody knows. No mind bending questions. Everyone who comes is eager to learn or pick up something new. So usually veterans who come are kind of along for the ride, kind of hanging out with other veterans that they know there, and they're, they might pick up a trick or two. It's just all kind of part of the experience of adding to your knowledge. But I'd say the majority of the class are people who are like young, coming into this either at the film school level or 5, 6, 7, 8 years in, and they are they're learning stuff. So then they come to me later with questions about their own situations, and asking me, well, how do you do this, how do you handle that, and I mean, let's face it, I kind of have an answer for everything. Like there isn't, I'm not stumped, it's just, this is where they're at. And I'm glad I can just say like, okay, well, here's something you should do, or here's something you should try, whatever. And it's not that nothing's bending my minds. They're the ones whose minds are getting a little bent, and it's cool. It's fun,
Yeah, that's cool because it's a really important point of reference that you provide, because there's it's like a guitar player watching another guitar player play. It's like, we already know how to play guitar, but we're going to pick up some new licks here just watching this dude. So
and I can relate to them too, because I've got my feet in all these different levels of production. Like I'm not just in like one level of like just like, oh, all I do is like huge movies or anything. No, I'm doing all kinds of stuff, like all kinds of stuff. And I'm working like down and dirty, so it's like they might be in a situation that I was just in last week, so it's like, it's not, they're not coming up to me going, well, what do I do? Like the camera's here, that says this person. I'm like, I know exactly what to tell them because I'm dealing with it too, so yeah.
Well, I love that, after I've seen you do this class now at least a half a dozen times in various cities, and I'm always amazed at how one person on stage can just flow from point to point to point with so much good information, and there's some levity in there. People are laughing, people are engaged, and I mean, you're talking about a 3.5 hour class typically with a few breaks, couple of breaks in there,
right?
But
goes by. It goes right by.
It does go right by. But I love the way you sign off with each class. And do you mind sharing that with us, like how you end each class?
Yeah. Well, what I try to remember to end the class with is, look, you take what I've told you today and integrate it or innovate it, whatever you can, whatever you want to do with it.
Yeah. I remember you said that in Rome, and I was like, yeah, that, that's definitely a recurring theme. It's like you either integrate it, or if you find a better way to do it, then innovate it. And that really, puts it all that knowledge in their hands that, hey,
I don't want to be the be all end all. I just want to, like put ideas in people's minds and maybe inspire them to take things even further,
Inspire them. That's the big thing.
Yeah. And number one thing at the end of the day, it's listen to the microphone and see what it's doing, and see what microphones work best for whatever situation, because there's not one mic for every situation. So, but that takes time. So I know that that's not something you're going to learn in one masterclass. And I'm very clear about that. It will take time, but I really emphasize you got to take that time, and you got to really learn, find good headphones and get used to them. That takes time. And then every time you switch headphones, that takes time. So it's like, these things are going to take some time, but let's take some of the stress away from it. Let's add in a little technique. And now you can start creatively using microphones as a way of delivering the performance, which is what we're there for. Because my other, coined expression is radio mics capture dialogue, booms capture performance. So that's what you're there for.
Nice.
That performance,
Yeah, the sound of the
radios on everybody. And yeah, it's like, sure, we'll get the dialogue. That's
You'll hear them talking.
It's a useful tool. But if you want to really get that performance and make it like resonate with the audience, get the boom in there. Fight for that. That's what I'm there for. To teach them how to fight.
the sound of the actors in the space.
Yeah, exactly. It's so much better. Like, it's just like, I'm doing something with Billy Crystal right now, and he's such a great actor. And it's such a pleasure to hear him on a boom mic versus radio. Even though his radio sounds great and there's no clothing noise, it sounds great. But as soon as we switch to the boom, it's just like, this fucking Billy Crystal, he's awesome. I want to capture that. I always
Definitely
want to capture that.
I've done 7 or 8 movies with Billy.
Isn't he amazing? He's great. He's so sound conscious. Let me just tell you, I'm amazed I'm even working right now. I doubt I'll have a job after this week, but we'll see. But we're working with a pug. A pug is the noisiest freaking animal you can put on a set.
Just when they're breathing, right?
Yeah, that thing. The only time it doesn't make noise is when it's licking its nose. That's it. So it's like, but Billy's so sound conscious and so aware. He will sit there with the pug. When we first started, they'll call, roll whatever action, and then he'll be like, hang on, let's get some pug wild sound. So he's like, 30 seconds of pug from Billy. He made this happen. And then he did another thing where he was coming down some stairs, but he couldn't come all the way down. It's a set, it's a brownstone set. So the staircase was blocked. He couldn't come all the way from the top to the bottom, but he's coming to the shot. So he did Foley at the top. He simulated doing 6-7 steps before coming into the shot. He goes, that way we have it. And it's just like,
very clever.
I'm like, are you for real?
Yeah. I had one situation on a movie with him where he was playing a rabbi and he walks around the desk while he's saying a line, and then he sits in the chair while he's still talking. In the first take, he sat down, but he looked at the floor when he sat down, and it was fine. He didn't get totally off mic, but he went a little out of pattern for a second. And then after they yelled cut, he said to the boom operator, "I'm sorry, I'll keep my head up next time when I sit down."
Right.
And I heard that, and the boom operator was like, what did he say? I'm like, no, he's apologizing for, that's pretty amazing that he even acknowledged that. And sure enough, all the subsequent takes after that, he sat down with his head up and kept talking.
He remembered you, by the way, when I told him the story about the baseball and all that.
I
mentioned it, and he said, "Oh yeah, I remember, Chris. Yeah, he remembers you."
Yeah, that was one of my best, happiest filmmaking memories was sitting with him during the World Series, and I had it on my iPad. He just comes and sits next to me at the sound cart, and we just two guys watching baseball, and he has a freakish knowledge of baseball. It was really neat to sit and talk to him. But and then I remember once he knew that I knew Jeff Wexler, he's like, "What's Jeff up to? What's he doing? Is he working on something?" And then I told Jeff, and Jeff, what did you tell me?
I don't remember, but
you were like, "Tell him I'm retired."
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it was funny, but he was very interested to know where you were, Jeff, and what you were doing.
Thank you.
But yeah, really terrific guy to work with. Well, man, we're gonna talk a little bit more about the trip, man. But Ken, you knocked it out of the park in all three cities.
Thanks.
And
we had packed venues in every location. It was kind of nuts.
Yeah.
And the hardest one was Milan for sure, because it wasn't a real venue that I teach in. We kind of sprung this class on everybody because it's like everybody's there. Why don't I try a 1-hour mini class? And I felt like my brain was melting trying to smash as much as I can down into 1 hour.
Condense it all into,
yeah.
It felt like 5 seconds went by in the class, and I was like, okay, that's it. I was like, I just started.
Yeah. The story behind Milan was that it was on a Tuesday night. Usually, Tino likes to try and do the events on weekends so more people can show up. But we were coming through Milan, and we decided to do a meet and greet there, just a because it was at the Soundfish store there, and so we had just decided to do a meet and greet, kind of like what we did in Paris in 2019, and where it was just social, us meeting, having food, talking, one-on-one. There was not going to be an event, but once I put the Eventbrite link out, it was we only Turi was like, we only have 40 people we can fit in there. And so I set the Eventbrite limit at 50 because I'm like, typically, 50 people RSVP, that means 25 or 30 will show up. That's just kind of the law of averages, how it works when when you're not charging money and it's a free event. But those 50 invites went within the first 3 or 4 days, they were gone. And I was like, I had never seen a response like that. And so Tino and I revisited with Turi, and we were like, should we do something there? And so, yeah, that's when we talked about doing the abbreviated class and the abbreviated panel discussion, because it's and I think it turned out really well. But I can definitely see you in your head going, this I can do, this I can do, oh, that I can't do, this I can do, because some of it requires space, actors walking and doing stuff. So
yeah, I just had to talk about more stuff than demonstrate stuff, but
right.
Still,
and we didn't have,
it was still pretty good.
Yeah. And we didn't have the listening system there either, which we usually have. But
right.
yeah, so but still, you adapted it beautifully, and I think people walked away with a really good understanding, with some new markers in the road to follow for their future endeavors. So
and by the way, Will Munroe joined us at that point. I don't know if any of you know who Will Munroe is. He's fellow boom operator from LA, and he discovered that he loves talking to groups of eager listeners. He was holding court afterward. He was so happy because, you can hear William about a mile away.
Yes.
And he's just like, explaining stuff and showing him how to wire ties. And I mean, he was on fire. I was like,
Yes.
Go William. Yes.
And at 6'8", at 6'8", he's hard to miss. And I remember he was talking and Tino said something like, man, his hands are like toilet bowl lids. Because he talks with his hands. And I was like, yeah, he definitely had a great presence and was just a really cool.
He had a good time being like, another teacher, it was fun. He really took to that. So that was cool.
Yeah, that's very, very cool.
Hey, Chris, can I interrupt for a second? And I had one quick question for Patrushkha, and then I also wanted to see whether you want to poll the people we have here, if anybody has some ideas of some other things to talk about.
Well, yeah. Well, I definitely want to get into.
Or you want to get to Doc next, or what?
Well, I'm going to get to the panel discussion part of it real quick, and
okay.
And we're going to.
Well, let me just ask a quick question to Patrushkha. Is it true you're writing another book?
Probably, yeah. I'm. I've just finished editing the Boom book, and it's being proofread, and I've already started on book number 3.
Oh, I didn't even know I was talking about book 3. I was just asking you about book 2. I didn't.
Oh, book 4 is for directors.
Oh God.
I have a lot to say.
Okay.
It's going to be a series. It's going to be a bound series of things.
She's the Peter Jackson of sound authors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Patrushkha.
Sure.
Yes. So the other element of our event is typically, it was 2 events in one, since we were traveling to these places. So the next element after Ken's class was done, we would break for lunch, and then we'd have a quick bite to eat, and then we came back for the panel discussion, which was it was a lot of fun. The panels were on the bigger side this time, but we were in Berlin. We were really lucky to have Thera, Fanny with us, which was really cool. And then Patrushkha is here, and she was also part of the panel as well. I'm not sure if anybody else from the panel made it to this chat, but we covered the topic of collaboration and why it's needed on set. We broke it down into 3 parts. The first part was why you need it. The second part was how do you get it when you don't have it? And then the third part was, when you do have unbridled access, what do you do with it? Like, how do you set your priorities? So, and then I don't think there was a single city where we actually made it through the entire agenda, because as usual, like, we encourage questions from the audience, and occasionally, like in Berlin, they brought up topics that were pertinent to them there in Berlin. And I remember, Patrushkha, you had some really great, things to say about what was going on there, and Thera, you did too. So if you two, Patrushkha and Thera, give me your impressions on the panel discussion and how you feel like it went, and just the event as a whole. So, and I'm stoked that you both of you were there, and it was really, really cool. And because you guys were like gold on a panel. It was great. Just wind you up and ideas. I love it.
Well, Mark and I had just come off teaching at Babelsberg, so we were kind of, we're in the flow of everything. I thought the panel discussions were great, and that it does, the audience to some extent affects what we talk about and how things go. So of course, the more feedback we get from the audience, the more engaged the questions or their comments, we go with that. I think that stays the same, but what comes out ends up being different. I think everybody found a lot to take away, even though it was different at every location. I think we left everybody inspired, and there isn't a tendency to get together on that local scale in Europe, and I'm not really sure why that is, if it's just a more reserved community, but bringing everybody together and encouraging that. And I think just by ourselves showing everybody that we were open to collaborate, non-threatened. We appreciated everybody and got along. That let everybody into that universe, and I felt that they felt it was safe to kind of share more with each other, and that was probably the best thing we could do for every community.
Nice. And Thera, so how, can you speak to that? Maybe why why I guess maybe Berlin is more reluctant to meet on a local level? Is it just a new concept, or is it I don't know. Can you kind of tell us what the spirit is there on the ground, because you're from there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we still have we have like different generations. When I started out, there was a lot of people, they're close to retirement now, or they're going into retirement, and they had the mentality, I'm not talking about labor rates, I'm not meeting up with people, it's just me, and kind of like have that competition feel really hardcore. And now there's like a lots of changes coming up, sure, and there will be more meetups coming, sure, but also like a lot of people, they love talking about what they want to change, but there's only a handful who take actions and go after. And some people, they have the mindset like, it's not possible to have an exchange with the international market, but then I'm there telling them, yes, it's possible, you can. I'm like, I live and breathe, I'm an example for it. And I had like some of my German colleagues who were at the beta house where we had our panel. They're like, how the hell do you know those US colleagues? And I'm like, yeah, I just went out and be myself and started an exchange. Guess what? No matter the country, we love talking about our craft and the sound community, no matter where you are. So it's just take initiative, take that step. And also like the sound community, a lot of people, they are not like high up on the pedestal to be like, yeah, treat me with a white glove, So you can start a conversation. You just got to take action, like I said. And yeah, a lot of people still talk about the panel that we had and how great they liked it and greetings. I also had Mac Ruth writing me. He's like, sorry, I missed it, So even the European market, he's out in Hungary for those people who don't know. And he was writing, he's like, he's so sorry that he missed it. And he was happy to see me with you guys. So yeah, it comes a long way. All those people, you have a lot of mutual friends, no matter where you are. So yeah, it's just starting the ball, like I said.
Yeah, it's and I'm definitely going to hit up Mac in the future to be part of one of our panels and our events in the future. But that's one of the things, like, and that's why it was important for me to have you on the panel, because I really wanted a multi-generational panel. Whenever I can, I want people who are in different parts of the career arc, because we're all looking at it from our perspective, and I think that's an important perspective to have. And you really brought it. You did a wonderful job. But that's one of the things I tell the older generation of mixers when it comes to getting engaged with the community. It's and a lot of them, they have the same kind of viewpoint. They're like, well, what do I need to do that for? I'm retiring. Like, I don't need to make connections. I don't need to network. I don't need to this and that. It's like, yeah, that's true, but you still like what we're doing. You still like the job, and they have a genuine interest for the job. Nobody who does this job 12 hours a day from show to show to show does it while they hate it. You have to love it on some level, because there's too much to deal with. It takes too much of your brain to do it if you don't love it. So just by them being there, I know that they have a genuine interest in it. And I try to tell them, look, even though you're getting near retirement, you have a lot of knowledge that you can pass on. You have a fresh perspective for a lot of new people that are coming up. This craft receives new people coming in, just kicking the tires, most of them, every 3 to 6 months. You're going to have a new, fresh set of eyes. We have our monthly meetup here in LA, and I get questions from people who've been in the group since it started 10 years ago. They're looking around going, who are all these people? And I'm like, yeah, there are a lot of new people. And that's why the group grows the way it does. But not everybody stays connected. Not everybody even stays in the craft. Some people move on to other things, and that's great too. But but there's always new eyeballs coming into the craft. So when you're developing your local community, find those people, be the road marker for those people, and help them find their worth. And I always tell the older generation, it's like, look, yeah, you're not there for networking purposes, but you can definitely answer some questions, and people would love to listen to what you have to say. And so usually I can connect with people and get them engaged like that. It's just really important to engage every generation. And so having that multi-generational panel with you on it, along with Mark and Patrushkha and Ken and Kevin. I wish Kevin could be here. Kevin Cherokee. But it was just a really good mix of people in all different parts of their careers with really great things to say. But Patrushkha, what were some of the engagements? Oh, she's gone. Hey, there she is. I had a question for you.
Getting water.
Yeah, what were some of the engagements that you had after the panel discussions? Like, what were some of the questions you were fielding from people? Were there any recurring themes, or I know I had some great chats, but
I don't think anything recurring. Just people who were really thrilled to meet me and us in person. I think it's just. I think it was really more just them acknowledging where they are in the world, and being next to all of us gave them some kind of understanding of themselves and their careers and being in the world. There's nothing there's nothing intimidating, or it isn't a process to kind of be interacting on a global scale. You just show up. And I think it was that easy for them to say, oh my God, I'm standing here with Chris Howland and Ken Strain and Mark Ulano, and can I have your picture? There was a lot of, can I take a picture of us together? So that I think for them was a tangible souvenir of an experience that they naturally found themselves in. I didn't think
they didn't want my picture.
You're too tall.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think anybody asked me.
Remember that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think anybody asked me for my picture either. But there was one guy in Berlin who Jenny Cherokee was at the sign-in table getting people signed in and getting them name tags, and there was one guy that put his name tag on, and he came around the table and he just gave me a hug. And I was like, hey man, I'm a hugger. So I hugged him. I was like, hey, how you doing? And he was like, dude, I love the Zoom chats, and I'm really glad you're doing it. He's like, I'm usually a little square there, but it's really great to meet you. And I was just like, I'd never had that happen before, where, it was just a really neat thing. So the guy,
Chris, you're very huggable.
Yeah,
I am. I give great hug.
And the hugs don't translate too well over Zoom, which unfortunately so many of us, that's where we're relating to people, only little boxes on the screen.
Yeah. But it was really neat to chat with him, and I'm glad he made it. It was, it was really cool. But that was the one time that happened to me. So, but it's cool. So, but I think the panel discussions went really well. I think the entire events, the event in every city overall went to almost 5.5 hours. We had to cut a little short in Rome. We had art out. But yeah, overall the panel discussions hit really well. I remember in Berlin they wanted to talk about getting a third on their crew. They don't have thirds on their crew at all. Even on the biggest shows, it's a 2-person sound crew all the time. And so I remember Mark, Patrushkha, they had some great insight on where that is in the world. Like France is making big. You remember Patrushkha? What did he say?
Can I jump into that topic? Well,
yes.
We do have a third, which got recognized like 2 years ago, that there might be a third.
Good.
Payment is still not the greatest, and some of the shows you have to be equivalent to a first. But we are slowly getting all the mixers together to kind of like stand tall and be like, yes, we need 3 people, because it's not like, 20 years ago where you could cover a show where they only had 1 camera. Now you have 2, 3 cameras, no practices, like first rehearsal is, it is the first take. You have to have people who are equivalent. Like I've done a Netflix show last year, a really big one, as a UST, and you had to be equivalent to the first. So of course I went to production and be like, hey, I'm not getting, the payment what usually UST get. I'm like equivalent to the first. I want the same as the first. And you have to really stand tall with the producers and the line producers who be like, no, I don't want to pay you. I'm like, yes, you do, because these are the benefits when you do, because otherwise you have post-production costs, which were way higher. So rather pay the third. And also like our points of right now to get the third through to production is like money costs, more efficient on set, less post-production, and like a lot of other perks. We have like entire bullet lists, and it gets more and more that we get slowly thirds in, but there's still some old school mixers who are close to retirement. They're like just taking on the gigs because they don't want to say no to a production because they're afraid of losing something. And these people keep on delaying that we actually get the third team, like, on all the shows.
Right.
And that makes it difficult because not everyone is pulling on the same string basically at the moment still. And we're trying to unify more and make more awareness that this is necessary, because all of those shows, they tend where you have to have a third person crew basically. Right now I covered a show which I mentioned to Chris. It's a crime TV show. It's been around since 20 years. This production is a really good example. They only getting a third in, so basically a second boom operator when they do the studio days. But in the outdoor shooting and like all the other locations when they're out somewhere else, they don't do the second because they're like, we're not paying for it. It's not what we done, a while back then. I'm like, while back then was different because the demand was different. Now, change coming and they're already in place already since a couple of years with a few things. You do need to go with the wave, and there is a change for sure.
Yeah, and the job is
it will benefit them, like I said.
Yeah, and the job is just different now. It's no longer a single boom running into a Sela and that's it.
Exactly. And wireless mics hiding is an art. I mean, I had literally on one of the shows where they also did not want to pay a third, and we had 35-minute takes, 40-minute takes, 9 actors and actresses together all the time speaking.
I've actually thrown it out there once or twice that I said a boom for every camera, and just as a casual comment, and you can see the look in producers' eyes as the wheels are turning sometimes, just trying to normalize that, not, I guess they're in their mind, they're realizing, oh yeah, we used to have 1 camera, now this show's got 3 cameras. Oh shit, is like what's going on in their head. So it's kind of funny.
Especially when they start cross shooting things and shooting in different directions. It's like, that cueing is impossible. So, and it's not necessarily the mic positioning that where you start seeing shadows. It's when the mic has to re-cue very drastically for the B camera shot or the C camera shot.
It's where you hear that whoosh, whoosh,
or to see the shadow wipe the set.
Yes.
And here's another thing about a 2-person crew. I actually did a job last year, 2-person crew. It was kind of a favor, and it was inside Amy Schumer season 5. And it was the setups were pretty rudimentary. It was doable, and the sound mixer was a utility. So he was used to like helping out and distributing context, and we split the wiring and all this stuff. But then when I watched the show, it's really obvious to me how it could have sounded so much better with 2 booms, because there was all these times when they're doing overs, right? And the over is on the wire and I'm covering, the on camera, and it's so obvious that the over is on the wire. And then when they flip back to the other person, it's on the boom, and it's just, so you get this like very disconcerting, like back and forth, wire boom, just for simple coverage. It's just like, you guys screw this up with having a
and Ken, you can hear that and you can analyze it. An audience doesn't really know why that's happening or what it is, but it's affecting how they feel about the scene.
Right.
That's the thing, you know, because when you have that kind of discontinuity or something that doesn't fit reality or the reality that we thought we were creating, it has to take you out of the scene. You know?
Not only the audience not recognize it, Jeff, but the producers sometimes don't recognize it.
Right.
Then you know you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's come.
Producers just know people. They don't know film.
Yeah, like I said, I had this show with the 9 actors, and I had to step away to wire them. And production looked at me, "Can you wire them in 5 minutes, all 9 of them?" And I'm like, "Cute." No, I can't. And it's just I was just standing there like, how do I react to a question like that? So of course I was politically correct. I'm like, hey, listen, have you seen what they're wearing? And you are aware that they have to be hidden and they're not all here. So no, of course it's not going to be 5 minutes. And it was just me. So of course I, you know, whatever, magic made it happen. And then, you know, came and once I came, of course, lied and, you know, camera, they spoke what's happening. And I had to stop them before we could start shooting and ask each department, hey, what's going on? Any changes and whatsoever? And production then came to me, it's like, what's the issue? What's taking so long? I'm like, if I would have had a second person, I wouldn't have to ask them what's going on, because I was gone at the base wiring actors in 5 minutes, 9 of them kind of like joking to the UPM. And I'm like, you know, it could have been way easier and more effective if we had a third person, you know, in the crew to make things easier. Also, literally, it was a show where we had 35, 40-minute takes. And let's be real, boom a scene like that with running around, full-length boom pole, like 22 feet in a hall, running around a couple 100 meters through a warehouse with 9 actors, shooting guns, you know, kind of like dodging the bullets that come out from the fake bullets, you know, coordinating with camera who moves around like crazy because of steady rigs and like all crazy things. It takes a lot of effort. Who knows how to boom? And then they're like, oh, let's go, let's continue. And I remember we stood in this huge warehouse, 9 people speaking, a huge door on the side with a lot of light coming from the side. And I was standing there trying to avoid the shadows and camera moving around like this really quick. So I had to run around on the other side, not casting shadows. And then I remember, you know, camera going into the actor closer, up and down, up and down. It was like me up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down for like 25 minutes. And I'm kind of like, oh, it's getting strenuous, you know? And moving around like that. And then I hear the entire crew was hidden far away, so we could shoot, 360 basically. And I hear the director screaming, let's run to the other side of the hall. And I'm like, I just look at him, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So of course, 10 minutes, we ran through the entire halls running, like I'm talking running. Try to run with a 22 feet pole and not trip.
Yeah, that's, oh man.
After like 25 minutes doing up and down, up and down, up and down.
Mm-hmm. What's the show called? The show with the 9 actors, 20 years running?
If you would translate, it's like Death of the Living, if you would translate the title. And it was for like one of the local TV
nice
broadcast companies here. Low budget whatsoever, and like super crazy demands. And me and the sound mixer, we made a lot of things happening for this crazy show. But man, a third would have been nice to change it up. And I had the, the gun people with the effects people who've been in the industry for 25 years come up to me, be like, we never saw a person boom this long and this crazy hard and this focused, not even your male colleagues.
Yeah, Yeah, and it's funny because I remember there was this one DP that I worked with a lot when I first started, and his name is Jayson Crothers, and he's a brilliant, amazing human being. But I remember in our moments where we were entrenched in indie film together and pulling off these miracle setups, he would always kind of in jest, he would say, yeah, but in the filmmaking world, for every miracle you pull off, your reward is another miracle to pull off. Because they figure if you can do it then you can do it again. And so yeah, it sounds like what you went through as well. But yeah, I wanted to get to Patrushkha on the on that third discussion. You know, I know there was some interesting input that you had during the discussion, and just wanted to see if you could reiterate that for us.
Give me more. What?
On the remember when they
Where are you going?
when in Berlin when they were saying they were fighting for a third.
And I think
I remember you and Mark.
I think what Patrushkha, she made a good point. She made a point about, well, what is this costing per minute? Now, if you break it down in production costs per minute, then you can say, okay, let's say it's $1,000 or $2,000 a minute, like, or something. I don't know what the price is. But if you lose minutes over the course of a week, those minutes you can make back with a utility. And it's, you know,
right. The price of the utility,
the salary comes out of the time you save, and you can, if you can just turn that into like a budgetary, sit down with them and say, well, this is how many minutes you're going to lose on average per week not having a utility by making your boom operator do so much more. You know, run off the set like Fanny said, and then come back and figure everything out because she's busy wiring 9 people. Anyway, you could probably say it better than me, but
I actually said it in chapter 2 of the sound behind the sound cart, which is, you know, if you're going to talk to production, you need to talk to them in a language they understand, which is money. And there's a difference between the cost of something and the value of something. And the cost is relatively minor, and it's the loss, you know, every day or a setup, even if you're waiting 2 or 3 minutes more for a short changed sound department, it adds up to be, you know, 4 times the cost of just having somebody there in the first place. So what you do is calculate that in real money and show them the savings, and that usually works. Or it has for us, or, you know, it seems that sound people don't think about talking in terms of budget, but it's really important. And so I support everybody getting familiar with the budget of a show and talking about the actual savings, you know, because everybody looks at things that are line item budgets. I don't know who is making these budgets anymore. These people are idiots, and they have no idea how the technology has changed, and you just have to put it in practical terms. You know, when you just talking about RF coordination, it wasn't a thing a few years ago. It's a thing now. And you just have to explain. Anybody who makes more money than we do has no idea how to make a movie. That's just kind of a blanket, but pretty good, you know, philosophy to go by whenever you're talking to production managers, producers. I was on a show not so long ago, 41 producers, dumb as doornails. Not one of them knew how to make a movie. Incredible. Anyway, you just have to explain in practical terms.
Yeah, I remember in my internship, Mark explained that to me, and that we were the movie we were working on was a $60 million below the line budget, and it was for 60 days of shooting. So they're clicking off $1 million a day for every day we're shooting. And you do the math, that's a little over $83,000 a minute. So save 5 minutes, you can spend, you know, $3-4 grand on a utility that week to save 5-10 minutes. That's a lot of money. So, and you know, every show has you can do the math on every show, but it was a very good point to bring up. And speaking the language of whoever you're dealing with on the set is a good way. That's how I learned, you know, through the patience of, you know, Jayson Crothers and some of the other DPs that I worked with. I learned their language. And so when I engage a DP or I engage somebody in production design or in wardrobe, I have learned over the years how to speak that language, and I try to understand what's important to them. And hopefully, you know, we can find that point where we can, you know, collaborate and pull it together. But yeah, I really thank you for that, Patrushkha. Thank you, Ken. overall, the K-Tek trip was a really great success. I hope we can pull in some more partners and do some more cities, and expand the idea a little bit. I have some ideas to expand it to doing more in stores in the cities that we go to, because I feel like having the educational event is one thing, but having a social event is important too. So if we can have an event at a venue and then maybe the next day meet up for a social event at one of the local stores there, like at whatever the local K-Tek dealer is, or whatever the partners we can pull on. I think those would be great ways to just pull the communities together and just get everybody to see each other and feel that spirit of collaboration and organizing their community. So it's very cool. And I want to thank you guys for being a part of it. Ken, you're a huge cornerstone of that thing. And Patrushkha, having you there was just, was gold. So
thanks.
It was very cool. And Thera, thank you, for hanging with us in Berlin and with so many details. Thera really came through for us with a lot of different little aspects of the show. And that was something, you have to have the boots on the ground locally to help make it smooth. So, but anyway, is there Paul Dunn? Do you have a question here? I'm reading this for the first time, so hopefully it doesn't have any bad words. Hi, Ken, in your Video Mantis Boomright class.
I just responded to that.
Okay, cool.
I just responded. Yeah.
It's about the notes. Okay, the notes.
Yeah.
I have the older copy of the notes still, the PDF.
Yeah, I've been updating it, so that I'm turning it, I'm formulating it, reorganizing it. It's
cool.
It's not easy.
Is that going to become a book eventually?
Yes, it's in the pipeline to turn that into a book. Yeah. Sweet. Yeah, just so that it's like a reference, like kind of a handy reference guide, so to speak.
Awesome.
Not it's not the Bible of booming. It's just the gospel according to Ken.
And all the Lord's people said, "Amen." Very good. Well, cool. Well, so yeah, let's move on. Doc, thank you for your patience. Doc has got some really cool things to share with us about what's going on in the gear world and just new products. And he admins a page called Strictly Sound Gear on Facebook, which is just talks all about the gear that we use. And Doc himself has a company called Halter Technical, where they make listening devices, headphones, and this really cool thing called the Microphone, which is a Bluetooth in-ear earwig, which is really handy for certain situations. But yeah, I got 2 of them. They're awesome, and I paid for them. It's not a free endorsement. I paid for it. So anyway, but Doc, man, tell us what's going on. I hope you're doing well. What's up?
Yeah, thanks. Things have been extremely busy. We had NAB at the end of April. Then you all got to see me run around like a chicken without a head at the Gotham Sound Expo last month.
Thanks for fitting us into that too, and was really cool to see you there.
I'm glad it worked out. It was wild. I hope in my maniacal state of running around you got to see some things. But a lot of new gear has come out. As Chris said, I run the Strictly Sound Gear Facebook group, and I like to shine a spotlight on some new gear from other companies. I'm going to go through this quickly, but feel free, anybody jump in with questions. If I've got answers, I'll talk about it. If not, I'll direct you.
Yeah, either speak up or use the raise hand function, and yeah, we'll get to you. So anytime.
Yeah, I'll rely on either being interrupted or the moderators help me out. So first off, at NAB, our friends at Tentacle showed off their new Tentacle time bar. So this is a display which you kind of have to see in person to really appreciate. It's a pretty incredible display with a built-in battery that can last for, I think, 20 hours. They're basically thinking of it as their Sync E with a giant display. It syncs with all of their Tentacle products. It can display user bits, or you can put in any text. And this is quite obviously their first product with a display, and there's more to come. They've said that this will be available in the fall, possibly November, for around 300 to 350 bucks. They haven't finalized that, but it's really incredible. Even if you just look at the YouTube videos to see the display, it's impressive. Next, I think I've mentioned this before, but Yamaha released their new Yamaha DM3 console. I'm a longtime Yamaha console user, as I imagine some of you are here. This is kind of the next evolution for them from the QL-CL series to this new DM series. This mixer can be powered DC. It takes a 24 volt DC input. And it has, I believe, 16 mic line inputs, 8 outputs, native Dante, native networking, app controllable. It has, can work as a DAW remote. It comes with Cubase, but can work with any DAW software. You can do onboard multi-track recording via USB, 18 in, 18 out. So if you want to just add boom recorder or something like that, or Pro Tools, you can record directly to Pro Tools. And the crazy thing about this, why it interested me so much, is that the console is $19.99 with Dante, $16.99 without. Incredibly affordable. It's just this as the basis for a cart, for anybody either starting out or making the move, upgrading their digital board, especially for those who are running like Sound Devices 970s, or using a good file bucket in front of their console. This is dope. I think this is awesome.
What is a file bucket? You said a file bucket. What is that?
I kind of refer to like those recorders, like the Sound Devices 970s, as it's
Okay.
just an all-in-one, dump a bunch of files into it. That's what it does.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we used to call it, a bit bucket or whatever when you weren't really utilizing all the things that the recorder either could do or couldn't do. I mean, I know that even all my years with the Cooper 208 being my main mixing panel, even though I was using the latest Diva that did all sorts of things, I never really had any connection with any of those things, because everything that I needed to do, I was doing with the outboard analog board. So to that extent, even though the very sophisticated and innovative Diva was serving more as like a bit bucket.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, right, basic sound workflow is,
and the 970 by design from Sound Devices really was a bit bucket.
Yeah.
So
you take you plug your Gazinta Gazalta box into the file bucket, and that's how you make sound, right?
Nice.
Yeah. Here's a quick view of the back of the console too.
A lot of connectors.
The DC input. You can see the Dante, and the networking LAN jack. Couple of months ago, I talked about the Sennheiser EWDX being a great introductory cart wireless. Well, at NAB, they showed off their DP, their digital portable wireless. This is what their line of what they think of portable as. So they have a receiver, a belt pack transmitter, a plug-on handheld, and their forever unupdated ME2 Lav that comes with all of their equipment. Some of the stuff about this DP line is very cool. It's got integrated Bluetooth for sync and control, intelligent battery management. The transmitter lasts for 12 hours on a charge, 134 dB dynamic range, all that incredible stuff. The price on it is just unbelievable at this point. The receiver is a single channel receiver. It's important to note that. but it's 349 bucks. And so are the transmitters. The belt pack and the plug-on transmitter are each 349 bucks. In fact, you can get this entire set that comes just like this for $899. Pricing is incredible.
Wow.
The coolest thing I think that this does, the receivers have magnets and they're stackable, which is just really cool to throw on a camera. Now you're going to notice the first thing that everybody that all of us production sound folk notice is the weird layout of the receiver. They have these, the antennas are on the back, not the face. The outputs are on the side. So you cannot put this in a bag. And at NAB, their sales reps straight up, I don't want to say admitted, but they've made no bones about the fact that this was not made for us. This was made to put on a DSLR or put on a tabletop. But you can bet your bottom dollar that a revision or another version of these is coming soon that will be baggable.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Just
that's
a matter of when.
Yeah, that's a big trend with a few of the companies developing new gears, that they're not necessarily developing the audio gear for the sound mixer anymore. They're developing it for the camera operator to buy, plug into their system, and to do it themselves. So that it's important to keep that in mind. You know, love it or hate it, that's the market they're going for, because with small screen content, online content, they're trying to give people who are operating a camera a way to do sound on their own.
Yep. Which is
that's from Sennheiser.
From Sennheiser, the EWDP line.
That's pretty amazing pricing from Sennheiser. And it's the digital radio too? Digital.
This is all their digital, and they're all compatible with their other EW digital lines. So now they have the EWD, the DX, and now the DP. They're all working together. So you can get the cool EWDX transmitter with that e-ink display to work with this portable receiver, or vice versa. All of the stuff is very inexpensive and really, really versatile. So
where does it? I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. Keep going, Doc.
I get on a roll, Tony. Come on.
Oh, no. I was just going to ask real quick, where do these sit frequency wise?
So in typical Sennheiser fashion, they have their bands, but they have all US legal bands. I don't believe they go up into the 900s or gigahertz bands, but I'm not sure on that. They say up to 56 megahertz bandwidth. So that's per different band, I assume.
I see some pretty good uses for this for us. I mean, obviously as a camera hop, but recently, on my shows, I started putting an old 411 at the VTR cart for the feed to VTR. And so this is something that could work for that as well, as a low cost alternative to that, to where, if something were to happen to it while in transit on the VTR cart at $350 the receiver, I'm not going to cry over that.
Yeah, 100%. And the receiver has a built-in battery too. So which is 7-hour battery. So you can throw it on the VTR cart as, just as a last minute need, or throw it up on a voice of God speaker.
Yep.
And it's a self-contained, inexpensive option. It's pretty cool.
Really, yeah, that's great. That's great.
This next one, Phill, are you here? I see Phill. So
yeah,
our friend Phill Jackson from Coga Sound, I see here. You can talk about your new wireless sleeves better than I could. So you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I lent out my demo kit to one of our dealers, so I don't have everything with me, but I have a few different options of what we have. What wireless sleeves are? Is there a way to mount receivers to whatever you want? The outside of bags, the outside are like voice of God systems, VTR carts, whatever. We have them 3 different varieties. We have large receivers, which work for like either like QRXs, 411s. They also work with the Electro T1 or T4 transmitters, 822s. We have a Zaxcom camera link. And the one I don't actually have on me, which is kind of our flagship, is our, we have super slot receiver plates. So they come, it's basically a super slot pass through. So say you have like a Hydra or something on your cart with a super slot receiver, you can easily just pull that out, throw it in your bag, run and gun. Like if you're running to the beach, all of a sudden they change something up and you need to have the transmitter in there. It runs off of DC power, so it's just like a same. Yes, Doc has the picture there. So
Yeah,
that's our TA.
I got you covered here.
Awesome. So that's the TA5 variant. We also have a dual TA3. They
There
will
you go.
they will pass either 2 channels of audio or 4 channels of AES, depending on which variant you want. They are really great for being able to like mount quickly. So I have like a Protogear bag here. I say I need to throw an extra transmitter on. Yeah, they just pop in and I can slot it on the front of my bag. They work with the same clip system that our battery power system has for the longest time. So you can run everything off of a single battery. And they're easily changeable. So got some Velcro on the back of this. So it's a little more difficult, but we just slot.
You did it now.
There you go. So like I can throw, like if I need a T4 transmitter on this, pops in. They have clear cutouts on the bottom so that everything works. But yeah, so that's kind of the gist of the product. We're really excited about like what the possibilities of doing this, and we're gonna have more clips coming out soon, things to make it easier to mount these to carts so you can easily have, or to wherever. That's the goal, is just to make it like a universal mounting system for your receivers and transmitters.
And I'll add on to that one thing too. As you can see in this picture here, like these wireless sleeves do use the same mounting system as the Koga battery distro. So all designed to work together, which is very cool. So I appreciate that, Phil.
Thank you, Phil. Cool, man.
Yeah, thank you guys.
You want to tell us pricing?
So the price point for just the sleeves with no electronics are $75, and those include a clip of your choice. So you got like something like a Molly clip that'll go on like the front of a K-Tek bag, or anything that has like the tactical harness. You have the Modulux clip, which goes on either like Portagear or petrol bags. You have a Buddy Lock clip, which goes on like Orca bags, and we'll have a couple other things. And then the super slot sleeves, they vary depending on the output. If you want a TA5, it's $175. And if you want 2 TA3s, it's $200. We tried to make them so it's basically the same price as a plate would be to interchange. So you don't have to interchange your, like unscrew your plates to have a TA3 or whatever the SRX set or whatever the brand you're using uses.
Cool. Nice stuff, man. So something a little quirky from Teenage Engineering out of Sweden. This is a company that I guess they're mostly known for their synthesizers, small electronic stuff. If anybody's into music production, you may know of this company. They're relatively new, about 15 years old or so, I guess. But they just came out with their first microphone that they call the CM15. It is a ultra portable, large diaphragm capsule mic. What makes this so different from other mics is the versatility. So one, it has a built-in 10-hour rechargeable battery, rechargeable over USB-C. This thing has dual mono outputs. It can run over phantom power. It's got an XLR output. So basically you can plug this thing into anything, computer, an interface, a mixer, recorder, and you'll have a large diaphragm mic at your disposal. Very, very cool stuff. They also came out recently with a little handheld recorder, kind of looks like a modern dictaphone with a rotating platter. This company is just really cool. I encourage people to check it out. If you're a geek at all and like buttons and like tiny electronics, this company does cool stuff.
What's the name, Doc?
Teenage Engineering. I don't know why their company is called Teenage Engineering. I don't believe they employ child labor, but I don't know. But if they do, man, those kids do some good work. Moving on back to things we're used to. Our friends at Deity. Andrew is representing for, I guess, our entire sound profession at Cinegear today. So he's not here with us right now. I'll talk about their new wireless. So their big news is that they've come out with wireless that works on UHF. They call this the Theos system. They're big into God names, I guess. So this new digital UHF system runs 550 megahertz to 960 megahertz region locked. Like it will know via the location on your phone which frequencies to set itself to, so that when you're traveling, you're not jumping on any illegal bands, which is a very cool feature. That it has a recorder built into the transmitter, but to answer your next question, no, this does not currently record and transmit at the same time, but you can use it as a transmitter or as a recorder. And the recorder does have 32-bit float recording that you can save to a micro SD card, which is cool. This does sync time code from their suite of timecode products, their timecode generator, their slate, their app. In fact, this whole thing can be controlled by their app too. Transmitter gets 14-hour battery life on a charge. Price is TBD. But Deity has been slowly broadening their product line, still definitely more focused towards the prosumer market and the market at large, but does have some great options for us pros too. They also have a dedicated recorder without the transmit function, which I assume will be at a lower price, but I have yet to see pricing on that. But I'm sure Andrew will bless us with all that information soon.
We'll have to get him here for a chat at some point.
You know, the man travels. That's what he does. He's a traveling fool. Papa was a Rolling Stone.
Yep.
So relative new news, the newest new news in that announced yesterday from Simon Payne up in Canada, who is the creator of Soundbag dashboards. They've come out with their newest dashboard system. It's a modular system that they call the Soundbag Dashboards Modular System.
Sorry, that was funny.
Yeah. So this is actually a really cool idea. So anybody who's familiar with Soundbag dashboards, they build frames for your wireless gear and your mixer recorder to connect, to sit nicely in a bag, so that you're not putting Velcro on your gear. You're not using Anybody remembers like the old petrol dividers that would clunk
Oh,
up a
yeah.
bag?
Yeah, I have one actually right here on this cart holding my 3 SRCs.
A
That
sound
was-
bag dashboard?
Yeah, right here. And then I even bought like an extra one that I have sitting here in case I get another, 633. Yeah, I have one in my bag as well. But
That's
yeah,
cool.
they're great. I love it. And yeah, this new line looks really cool and
Yeah,
more
so
more flexible.
what they've done is what Simon and Soundbag Dashboards have done is very clever. So they've turned it into the ability to not just have to buy one entire frame. So like Chris, yours is for
For the
specific
633.
wireless on a specific recorder.
Yeah, the 633 and the SRCs. That's
Right.
Yeah.
So you'd imagine Soundbag Dashboards has to create like dozens of configurations. I'm not good with exponents, but whatever that is to the whatever power.
Right.
So now you purchase the outer frame that fits your recorder. So in this picture, they've got a whole bunch of sound devices, Zaxcom, looks like Zoom. So you pick your frame and then you choose the wireless, the frame that fits your wireless, and then they slide together and screw in with set screws. So you're basically building out the frame specifically for you, which is cool because people change wireless and you update and upgrade and add and remove. And this lets you not be married to any one system. So this is just a great evolution in Soundbag options. Keep your bag clean and light and tidy. So be on the lookout. I don't have pricing from Soundbag Dashboards yet either. But like I said, I found out about this product yesterday. So
Nice.
cut me some slack, damn it.
Oh, that's cool.
And then lastly, a company that I talked about a couple of months ago, another Simon, this one out of the UK, Simon Davies. So Simon Davies was the founder of Rycote, and Rycote was acquired about 5 years ago by the Vitek Group, and Simon has launched Radius windshields, a brand new company using not only the family that founded Rycote, but some of the original staff as well. And he is showing off their first product, which is the SSM1, which he says is specifically for interior booming for short shotgun mics. We've got a few pictures here. This is exclusive. I honestly don't know if I'm supposed to show this particular photo, but I am.
That's pretty cool.
So anybody who knows anything about Simon and Rycote knows that not only do they deal with shock mounts and wind accessories day in, day out, but like these are scientists. These are people who study. Simon studies the evolution of the shock mount. And this is their first product and had something like 20 revisions before coming to this form factor after lots of testing. This shock mount, the SSM1, is the pricing we do have. Actually, they have it'll be available for £75, pricing not available in euros or dollars yet. And then they'll have a handle version of this mount for £84. So it's exciting to see what Radius windshields is now gonna do now that they're live and now that they're not beholden to any corporate overlords, and they can do what they do best. So I'm excited and anxious to see more from Simon and the crew.
Yeah, it looks like a very elegant design. I'd be interested to try it out and you know, put it through its paces. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. So since I plugged everybody else, I'm going to do a plug for myself here. Next week, so not this coming Wednesday, but the week after, for local 695 members, I am holding a seminar at Local 80 on recording audio for unscripted works. Going to talk very specifically about the differences in techniques and requirements for recording unscripted as opposed to scripted. We'll talk about the different jobs, different gear, and all that fun stuff. As we said in the flyer, you do not have to admit to watching reality TV to participate in this. In fact, I encourage haters of all kinds to join in. It hopefully will be interesting for those who have worked in reality TV before, who have never worked it, who have sworn, I will never work in that bullshit. There'll be something for everybody. And if not, you know, bring tomatoes to throw at me. It'll be fun either way.
You know,
right now it's, I believe registration is for 695 members. We're doing what we can to open it up to prospective members too. But it'll be cool.
Yeah, that'd be great. I know there's so much, you know, when it comes to reality sound, and they're often the canary in the coal mine for new technology and pushing the limits that a lot of us who work in narrative scripted, we unknowingly are benefiting from a lot of the work that the reality crews are doing, because they're the ones that had to tackle high track counts first. They're the ones that had to tackle long RF runs before we did. They tackled and solved a lot of these issues. So by the time we in narrative got to it, there was a well-paved road ahead of us of those that knew reality people, because these are problems they had to solve before we did. So huge amount of respect to people who work in reality television. I worked on one competition reality show that Austin Storm brought me on to his crew for, and Chris Olsen for. It was season 2 of a haircutting competition show called Sheer Genius. And it was on, I think it was on Bravo, or I forget which channel it was on, but that really opened my eyes to that setup. I had never seen a setup like that. It made sense in concept, but to see it actually done and being a part of wiring up a whole studio and then having to take that whole thing on the road, the control room, the mix station, grabbing bag rigs to run during the challenges, like it was so all encompassing. It was a really neat situation to be a part of. But yeah, I mean, there's so much to talk about in that genre of filmmaking. So much of the collaboration that happens there is fast and furious, and you know, they don't ADR that stuff. So it's, you know, but yeah,
yeah.
Thank you for doing that.
Can be very technologically intensive. It can be very the engineering aspect can get very complicated, and depending on the show, we do all of this while dodging hepatitis. So it's
in foreign countries, yes, and
that's right.
Yeah. To add the travel element to it, it's crazy. Jeff,
I'd just like to put in the good word for Doc, because I learned so much from him every time we have any conversation about anything, because it was obvious to me, since early in my career, I pretty much settled into doing feature movies, have done no reality work whatsoever. I've done a lot of traditional documentaries, but that really has nothing to do with reality TV stuff. And Doc is really the master of not only mastering that sort of work, but being able to discuss it intelligently and clearly. And I think it's a little bit of a mind blower. So it'd be well worth anybody who's interested in it, just because it is a lot of work, and it may be work that you have no connection with at all. And you might be perfectly content to just say, well, shit, I'm never going to do that kind of work. So, you know, but there's a value in learning about these things, and Doc's the man. So
I appreciate that very much. And the timing of this one, I think is important as well. Being that we are in a strike, that scripted
oh boy,
narrative
oh, yeah.
TV making right now is at a standstill. We're still producing some feature films at the moment, but hopefully this can broaden people's horizons a bit, open up some other work opportunities. So hopefully this does some good for the community too.
Cool. And Doc, I'm really thankful for you showing up faithfully to this every month so far. And even when you're traveling, you find a way to be here, and you add so much to this video chat. It's a whole dimension that would not exist without you. So I really,
thanks, guys.
Really appreciate it. And yeah, I thank Lindsay, your wife, for sharing you with us on a Saturday. So that's very, very cool.
Well, give Lindsay a big hug for me.
Yeah.
I know you have no problem hugging her.
She would love nothing more, Jeff.
Yeah, she's a rock. That's, for those of us in good partnerships, it's very cool. So we'll go with final thoughts right now, and then we'll sign off. And then after we sign off, I'm gonna hang out here for a little bit for anybody who wants to just lag a little bit and chat offline. That'd be great too. But any final thoughts from Patrushkha or from anybody who wants to speak up? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm wondering, I mean, I feel like maybe I'm fortunate because I happen to be working, but I feel like there's only like a tiny handful of shows here in New York that are still going, and stuff just keeps shutting down because of and generally speaking, like Local 52 out here in New York, they won't cross the picket line, right? So my production is sort of like, it's almost comical, the lengths they're going to like stay ahead of picketing. And I'm not opposed because, like, it's like, here's the thing. There's people that need hours for their health insurance, and like, they've been waiting, like a lot of people on the job, they've been waiting, they haven't worked for a while, and then they're on this job, and now they're getting some hours for their health. And now it's like, we're being asked to, respect the picket line, and not just respect it, but like not cross it. And there's some controversy about this, about whether, because I know that on a large scale, this is our fight, but in the short term, it's not. So it's kind of, this is for them. But if they were to sort of on our side, it wouldn't change their lives at all. They work in a completely different structure. But for us, it completely changes our lives. Like, our livelihood dries up just like that. Being supportive. Like, this is one of the most expensive, supportive situations I've ever seen. As a last writer's strike, I worked a lot of the way through it. The writers didn't like strike shows and the shows would shut down. They went striking in whatever locations they did, but I happened to be able to work at least half that last writer's strike in 2009, I think it was. So now that things have changed and IATSE's throwing down, well, what are people's thoughts about this? Because I imagine I'm definitely in the minority of someone with a job, and I feel like after next week, all they got to do is get wise to our location, and we are dunzos.
When it's usually the Teamsters that will shut it down. They're the ones.
Well, yeah.
If they don't, all it takes is a few drivers to say, I'm not going to cross, and the whole show.
Right. So they know this. So like our producers, for instance, created a whole decoy. Like, we had a location that we're on a stage. It's not a stage, it's a warehouse. For some reason, nobody's picketing the warehouse. So we have a location we have to go to, a hospital that's one of those closed down hospitals. And we were supposed to go, but they found out that they were going to picket the next day. And the producers were like, okay, we're not going to go. So we're not going to load the trucks. but we are going to sort of let all the background that we're supposed to come in for that day come in. And so they had PAs checking in background and all this stuff. And the picketers came, and it's like, then they left because they're like, okay, they figured out like, okay, they're not actually shooting here. But we are going on Monday, but we have a 5 a.m. call time to try to sort of get ourselves in, because, you know, they said like the grips are like, we're not crossing a picket line, but if we're already there and we're already working, then that's not really crossing a picket line. So I don't know. It's just a little, I know this is a weird thing to talk about when almost nobody's working. I'm imagining it's just like,
I mean,
crazy.
it sounds like they just want to avoid the optics of crossing a picket line. Like they just,
yeah.
That's,
I mean,
yeah, that's what it sounds
it's
like.
and I understand. Like here's one of our problems. One of our leads of our show is a little boy. If we shut down right now, he's literally going to grow up and change in the time that it takes for this strike to end and us to come back into production. And it's going to like the 3 weeks that they've already shot is going to be like, they're going to have to reshoot because he's going to change. He's that age that they change so fast.
Yeah.
He's
Every
like,
few weeks.
He's like 9 years old. He's like,
wow.
Change, you know, so
he'll come back after a break and his voice will drop, bro.
Totally. Like they're up against this, you know. Well, yeah, it's just, I kind of feel their side of it too. Like, you know, the pressure to like make this work. And plus they don't want 200 people to lose their jobs just like that, you know. Like they're actually nice people. These producers aren't jerks. Like I've done a few shows with them and they're pretty nice people.
Yeah, I mean, there was really, for us in LA, the strike started in January because everybody knew it was coming. The studios knew it was coming. So all those shows that would normally get greenlit and would start in January didn't start. So nothing started in the first quarter. Everything, that was when the real strike started for us. That's when we all started feeling it. When it became official, that was just a date on the calendar. Because for the studios, shutting down a show is much more expensive than it is to just stop it and don't start it yet. And so I think for us in LA, that's, you know, the strike really started for us during the holidays because we knew this was coming. And
well, they were doing, they seem to have a lot of shows shooting, like FBI, like all those like network shows were all shooting like a lot of, it seemed like there was no problem, but then it's like gradually we started to notice like there wasn't any new shows starting. And then somehow I ended up on this show, which started 3 weeks ago. And
is it an episodic or is it a feature?
It's Apple TV. It's a 10 episode Apple TV thing with Billy Crystal.
Yeah, usually, I mean,
don't know.
From what I'm hearing, if there's scripts that were already banked and written before the strike happened,
they're all written. They're all written.
They can shoot those scripts, and if there's enough writers on the staff that are also getting paid as producers, that is the loophole where they can show up and render producing services, but not writer services.
Right.
Wink, wink. Because they're still writing. They're just there as a producer. That's how they can get there. And honestly, I think that's probably the thread that is keeping that particular show going.
Right.
So, and that's just my speculation. I don't, you know, that's I know there's a lot of writers that also have a producer credit. And you know, so they're showing up to render producer services, but
because I'm pessimistic. I tell the producers are very approachable, very nice people. Like I said, this is like my 4th project with them, and I'm like, we're gonna have a job after next week, and they're like, come hell or high water, you guys are gonna be working. Like we are making this happen. I'm like, all right, we've all heard that, but you know, you never know, you know. Because they said if they strike and we can't cross after a number of days, it becomes too cost prohibitive and they're going to shut it down.
Yeah.
Anyway, just my thoughts on the current situation, at least reporting from the East Coast here, everybody in the LA sound mixer.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're working. And, you know, I still have a handful of friends that are still working on their episodic shows. And you know, that's great. You know, I've, you know, pivoted over to a little bit more of documentary work and you know, just smaller scale stuff. I'm doing a short film, a 4-day short film coming up this month, which I cannot wait to get started on, man. I'm gonna fire up this rig and get some reps in. It'll be really fun. And so But anyway, so we're gonna wrap it up if nobody else has anything, and yeah, we're gonna hang out a little bit after the recording stops. But thank you for coming. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Yeah, next time, a month from today. Reach out to us with topic ideas if you can. lasoundmixer@gmail.com is where you can get me. If you have topic ideas, send them, because we want to talk about things that are relevant to you and relevant to what's in your area. And we're putting out invites to the moderators of the various forums around the world to show up and participate with us when they can. And you know, I hope you guys will join us when we get back. And but
I've got one more plug.
Yeah, go.
So every twice a year, Sam Strum, financial advisor, hosts a webinar on called The Blueprint for Financial Success. It is an introduction to I'll say generating wealth and mitigating risks, and talking about finance specifically for us freelancers. The next two seminars are Sunday, June 11th and Wednesday, June 14th. So hopefully good enough times for East Coasters and West Coasters. I'm talking primarily for the USA here. But registration is free. It's available through Eventbrite. There's links on the Halter Technical website. If you are looking for any advice on how to manage your finances a little bit better, check this out. Check out this webinar. Sam goes through the basics and then offers everybody an opportunity for a one-on-one to discuss specifics. It will be entirely between you and him, but this is a great thing. It's a topic that is normally touched on, but rarely spoken about with authority in our world. So it's a great opportunity to talk to a financial advisor. So please take the opportunity.
Which is way better than just, you know, putting out your questions on social media and waiting for whatever random answer comes in.
Yeah, or just throwing all your money at whatever crypto token Elon talked about this week. Yeah.
Right. And we also thank you for mentioning that, Doc, and please share that on the LA Sound Mixers private discussion page so that people are there. I'll make sure it gets pinned so people see it. And
Will do.
And yeah, and it looks like we have one question about when are we coming to Africa and when are we coming to Spain? We're always looking for what cities would have us, you know, there. I mean, I know we talked about Spain, we talked about Madrid, we talked about Barcelona. Those are still on the short list. Africa, I have connections with a few people in Nairobi and in a few other cities, but I feel like there are a lot of just individual communications with people. I'm still trying to get a sense of where production is in those areas, and you know, we're certainly open to going there if there's a community there that you know can receive us, and that, you know, all of that is on the table. So hopefully we can build those relationships there and take an event there and meet those people. I would be very interested to see how those communities are pulling together. So but I know the short list also now is Vancouver, Mexico City, we're talking about. So trips a little closer to home for us. But yeah, but that's it. So
look at you guys, you're world famous, this K-Tek traveling crew. You guys are like the Wiggles.
I'll be the red shirt. I want to be the red shirt on the Wiggles. But yeah, no, we have a great time with it. And honestly, it all goes back to just helping people develop their local communities, help make them stronger, help you know, give them ways to learn the craft and absorb what we're doing. And then they can, you know, this craft can support them in their area, you know, through their career, which is what we want. You know, we love this job and want to keep it sustainable for everybody. And by organizing is one of the best ways to do it. So thank you everybody for participating, and we will see you next time. Thanks.
All right.
Bye.